You know what would make me happy? Is better food at the press conference. I'm Joe Tarosian, and this is RamView.
It's hot out there, but let's blow them off the last screen. Headline, Los Angeles.
Live from the studios of the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Tarosian, and this is RamView, the February 2nd, 2024 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident, need help, got questions, call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And of course, by Granite Ridge Christian Camp, a place where your life can change. All right. I was fortunate enough yesterday to go to the Jim Harbaugh press conference yesterday, actually. And I was just helping out some friends. They call it log rolling, just helping out. I'm not going back I'm not going to try to be an insider. I kind of like it on the outside because you can say what you want. And there are some things I realize about going to a press conference and that life with the sports writers and everything that I miss. I love being in the box. I don't ever want to go to a football game again unless I'm on the sideline or if I'm back up in the press box. And the press box these days, they're not really giving you the best seat in the house anymore. But to be with like-minded people, focused and interested in the game, and you're not really caught up in the person around you getting up and getting the brewski all the time. I do miss that. I do miss them bringing me my stats, right? I do miss my food, my coffee, anything I want being available for me right then and there. But I just don't necessarily miss press conference type stuff because I don't know if I like being around a lot of sports writers and sports personalities. I just don't get the questions. I'm sitting there yesterday hearing Harbaugh answer these questions, and I'm thinking, these are the most vanilla, crazy questions I've heard. Not really crazy, but I really don't care about whether or not Jim Harbaugh is going to be going Hollywood and appearing in movies. And then to have the same question asked over and over again, right? Did you think you'd find yourself here? You know, what was the timing of it all and everything? Just come out and say it. If you want to know, did you leave Michigan because there's a pending NCAA thing, say it, but everyone beat it around the bush and everything. And I don't know. And here, let me tell you about some of those questions being asked. They're being asked by the dominant media. They're not being asked by the lowlifes in the background. It's ESPN, major newspapers, Athletic, NFL Network. And sometimes the questions they ask just make you cringe, right? So, yeah, I don't really miss that too much. Plus, I don't know, back in the day, it seemed like the food was better, right? It seemed like the food was better. I can still remember the spreads I'd get at the sports arena and, the old sports arena. Now it's just a box lunch, I don't know. But I will give props to the Chargers on the coffee, though. They did have some nice decaf coffee there. So thank you very much to the Spanos family. We're going to get into Harbaugh, and we're going to get into the Rams. We're going to get into some Larry Brooks and Mike Fanning, a little bit of Super Bowl talk and everything. But first, I just wanted to touch base on the Rams hiring Chris Shula, right? That happened yesterday when we were off the air. So you guys have heard all the story. Chris Shula's been hired as DC, and I'm good with it. I'm really good with it because it's Sean McVay making a call, and with the exception maybe of Liam Cohen, who is now the new OC with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm trying to think of when McVay has really whiffed on a staff hire, especially at a DC or OC position. So we trust his call. And of course, Shula makes it easy to trust his call. He's been around for 6 years. He's been under both Staley and Morris, let alone McVay. And you have to assume it's a safe bet that the defense will still be there with the base Vic Fangio scheme with some minor tweaks and adjustments laid out for us. And also, it gives you an idea where the Rams might go in the draft, right? We had talked about it last week that if Ron Rivera was suddenly hired and he brought in a 4-3 scheme, that really kind of throws a lot of the draft prognostications out the window. And the Rams would probably be really looking for an interior defensive lineman if you're going to go with the forefront. So those things change. But with Shula, it looks like some of these things are going to stay similar. And the other thing you have to like about Shula is the name Shula, while historic in the NFL, it does not carry the weight it carried in the 20th century. Honestly, after about 1985, I think the really last great Don Shula moment was when him and Marino beat the undefeated Chicago Bears on that Monday night. Because honestly, after that, it was a Bills world in the AFC. Bengals rose, and then of course the Steelers rose, and the AFC was in a real drought there, winning Super Bowls. But so the name Shula has kind of waned to me. It doesn't have the same power. So Chris Shula did this all on his own, not by his grandfather. And he played at Miami of Ohio with McVay. Everyone knows that. But he took the route. He coached at Ball State, coached at Indiana, worked for the Chargers in 2015 and 2016. So you give him credit for that. And then he was also the defensive coordinator at Division III John Carroll in 2014. And somebody's going to say Division III John Carroll in 2014. And I'll just tell you, London Fletcher. London Fletcher is out of John Carroll, and that's where he matriculated. And London Fletcher is another former Ram who should be in the Hall of Fame. And it's a crime the Rams didn't hold on to him. But John Carroll is no pushover. So give Shula some credit here. And lastly, when it comes to Chris Shula, I would like to make a suggestion in regards to adjusting and tweaking the defense, which always needs to be done. You can't go into next season with last season's hand, right? I think we all know this, right? And I brought it up an episode ago, but I'd like to see the Rams do some creative things with Aaron Donald. Make sure, get him out of the trenches. Keep lining him up wide. Create a little pressure, more pressure out there. Maybe draft another interior defensive lineman to allow that to happen. But I also want to see something creative done with Ernest Jones. When Raheem started finally unleashing Ernest Jones the back half of the season after the bye, we saw how he could bring pressure to the quarterback. We weren't getting it from the edge. We were getting it from the conductor. We were getting it from AD, and we were getting it from Ernest Jones. And so I just like to see if maybe they got something they could do a little creative with Ernest Jones, move him around on defense, maybe set him out on the edge a little bit. And to do that, I think the Rams need to invest in another off-ball linebacker. They really haven't invested in an off-ball linebacker since they took Ernest Jones in 2021, and that was an absolute home run. I think it was one of the comp picks we got from Brad Holmes, third round, 104 overall, and Jones has been fantastic. And I'm not saying the Rams have to we'll get into that, where they should draft, but I just want to see more creativity out of Ernest Jones, or using his legs and using his ability if as we tweak the defense a little bit. All right. Around the NFL and other places, of course, I said I was at Harbaugh's presser. The last time the Chargers, I was thinking about this yesterday, the last time the Chargers hired a coach with a national title under his belt, it was Bobby Ross out of Georgia Tech. He was hired in 92 by the Chargers. They made the deal. Bobby Beathard, then GM, made the deal for a Redskins backup quarterback, Stan Humphries. Remember Stan Humphries? They had Natrone Means, and of course, Seau came into his own in those days. And within 3 years of hiring Boss Ross, the Bolts were in the Super Bowl, winning key games on the road, winning in Pittsburgh to get to the Super Bowl. And there's that kind of energy right now with Jim Harbaugh. So something to think about, that the last time the Chargers hired a coach with a national title under his belt, 3 years they were in the Super Bowl. Again, the energy that Harbaugh brings. Also, since Ross, maybe Marty Schottenheimer, maybe going back to the days of Don Coryell, I can't think of the Chargers making a bigger hire than Harbaugh. That's why they spent $16 million for him. This isn't the standard Norv Turner, Mike McCoy, Anthony Lynn, Brandon Staley hire. And if they had gone Leslie Frazier or Steve Wilkes, it would have been the same thing, right? But the only coach I think they could have hired to create a little bit equivalent buzz would have been Pete Carroll. But Pete Carroll's is not as hot as Jim Harbaugh is right now. And I'll have to say, Harbaugh popped yesterday. If he wasn't a head coach with a long track record, you think he was just a politician spouting one platitude after another. Lines like cocked, locked, and ready to rock. Work together, win together. There's no magic formula. It's just hard work. And it was just repeated over and over again. And you think after a while, it's like, man, I've heard this, right? He sounds like a politician. And I'm cynical about everything. But I was impressed with Harbaugh. He truly brought energy to the room. And I think he's going to draw a lot of people into this Chargers circle. And we know how LA is, right? Do we not know how LA is? I've said it before, and I know I probably disappoint people when I say it. The worst football fans in America are in LA because they'll turn on the Rams in an instant. Ram fans aren't legit. I mean, if you got 50,000 Ram fans in a stadium, I'm going to guess 40,000 of them are there just because they're winning, right? And they'll flip in a heartbeat. And Harbaugh's a guy that could probably turn something around and win that. The problem for Harbaugh is the Bolts are currently 45 million in the hole, not on the good side, on the bad side of the salary cap. And then when you think about the money they have to set aside to sign their next draft class, it's more like 55 rocks. So there's going to be some hard cuts. And so as Harbaugh was talking yesterday, he mentioned Derwin James. He loves Derwin James. Derwin James makes 19.8 rocks a year. And I don't know. I got the feeling Derwin James ain't going anywhere. He mentioned Rashawn Slater, still on his rookie contract. He mentioned Keenan Allen, who's getting older and is making 34 rocks next year. But the players he didn't mention? He didn't mention Khalil Mack. He didn't mention Joey Bosa. And he didn't mention Mike Williams. Mike Williams alone, if you get rid of him, saves you $20 million in a cap hit this next year. Khalil Mack is making 38 rocks. Joey Bosa is making 36 rocks next year. And those guys' names weren't mentioned. I thought it was interesting that Derwin James and Keenan Allen was. Chargers also semi-informally introduced new general manager, Joe Ortiz. And he's from the Ravens. So you got this Ravens-Chargers blend here going on. Stuff to think about. Speaking of coaches, we know Raheem Morris is in Atlanta. We know that Jimmy Lake went and he's his DC. Zach Robinson is his OC. But what I didn't know until I read it was they kept Jerry Gray as an assistant HC. Does anyone remember Jerry Gray? Ram cornerback, first round, 1985 out of Texas. Been bouncing around the league as a defensive coordinator, defensive backs coach. Well, Jerry Gray will be there in Atlanta as an assistant head coach to Raheem Morris. And that's 4 guys with ties to the Rams organization. We did mention, speaking of ties to the Rams organization, Liam Cohen is now the new offensive coordinator for the Buccaneers because Dave Canales went to Carolina. And in Chicago, we know they hired Shane Waldron, who was a passing game coordinator for the Rams, went up to Seattle for a couple of years, and is now the Bears OC. And he's hired Thomas Brown as passing game coordinator, former Ram assistant. Other interesting things that happened on the assistant coach front, the Boston College guy, everyone's making a note about that. Boston College head coach leaves the college ranks to come to the NFL to work as a DC for the Packers. That kind of tells you where everything's at in the college football world, and we'll get into that some other time. And then Cliff Kingsbury is now the OC in Las Vegas, which I think it's a great thing. And I got to believe he talks to Antonio Pierce and says, bro, we got to get a quarterback. And so I would look for the Raiders to find a quarterback in this year's draft. The one thing I thought looked pretty weak in the coaching hires, it was interesting to see Sirianni hire Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio as his OC in DC. That one felt a little weird in Philly. And the one that feels weird, it feels very retread-like, is Gerard Mayo in New England. He hired Alex Van Pelt, who had been fired by the Browns, as his OC. And then he promoted DeMarcus Covington. I believe he was a line coach with the Patriots. And again, everything in that Patriot system feels so inbred. Now, if you're going to hire a coach, you got to let him hire who he wants to hire. But everything feels so inbred. Gerard Mayo's whole career was there. They haven't been exposed to anybody else. And I don't know. I think I would have been a little more aggressive going after somebody outside the organization. Anyway, something to think about. Rumor, speaking of outside the organization, is Ron Rivera possibly in Dallas, and we'll see how that goes. Before we get to break, lastly, as I was in Inglewood yesterday, really, it wasn't the Inglewood that I grew up going to when the Lakers were over there off of Manchester, but leaving the stadium, SoFi, I got to see, what is it, the Intuit Arena? Is that what Steve Ballmer's building there, the Clippers' new arena? And it's unbelievable. It looks great, and Inglewood looks great. And I couldn't help but thinking that the Clippers owner, Ballmer, has endless money, right? Endless money. It's like he produces it in his front pocket. And it's all made outside of basketball. And he's got this amazing looking arena. And what do the Lakers have? The Lakers have a brand. The Lakers have history. And they have a family with all of its money tied up into basketball. There's no outside source. Ballmer was a computer dude. He was one of those software guys. The bus money is all tied up with basketball. And they might not have the pockets. They have the brand and they have the history. But what happens to the brand and history with the Clippers, with their own identity in a new arena? What happens if they pick off two titles, right? What if they win two titles in the next 3 years, or just a little bit down the road? What happens if they do that? Where do the Lakers stand? And the irony of it is they're in Inglewood. I mean, that's the roots of the Lakers, right? That's the Forum area, right? I don't know. It just really seemed kind of funny. It was weird. It was just this weird, surreal feeling being down in Inglewood yesterday. All right. I'm Joe Terosian. I was a sports writer for 21 years. And now I do RamView, thanks to our sponsors at Kistler Law and of course, Temple City Auto. Thank you guys so much for clicking on. Thank you for joining us. And I used to be a sports writer. I was a sports writer for 21 years at Mid-Valley Sports and other places, one of the founding guys there. I get to do RamView now, and I also write books. My books are on Amazon. Please check them out. Helps sustain me. This ain't a Patreon. This ain't a paid account here. But if you could buy my books, that would help sustain me, because I do this and it helps me stay in my day job. Is I pastor a small church in Burbank called Burbank Faith Nazarene. And you can find us right here on YouTube at Burbank Faith Virtual, as well as different places around social media. I would like to thank the fan. You see the tie over my shoulder here as the Marx Brothers. I had a fan send this to me, and they said they'd tell me who sent it when I started showing it on my social media circles. So I want to say thank you to the individual who zipped that thing out to me. No real questions that were sent to me. I don't know if we got any questions today. Yes, we do. Steeler fan Rob in Missouri. Niners are sitting pretty, and he's laughing at his own joke. Are you saying that because you really think the 49ers have a shot in the Super Bowl? Steeler fan Rob, do you really think they do? After barely beating the Packers and Lions at home by a combined score of 6 points? You really think that? Man, I don't know. G's nuts. Do or die for the Niners. If they don't win, it's all downhill from there. Go Chief. G's nuts, you're absolutely right. The 49ers have cap issues. They have a lot of stuff to deal with. You know, and they invested a little bit there in Trae Young and all those guys. And if they don't win this, yeah, we've been talking about it for a year now. They need to win it. They have to win it. Now's the time to win it. And if they don't, it's going to be marvelous. Won't it be marvelous? I love seeing the enemy of my team in agony. I love seeing the stress level. So yeah, I like the Chiefs in this game. In fact, I'll talk about it in a minute. I'm very confident in the Chiefs in this game. Jeeves nuts. Couple of defensive pickups for the Rams and bolster the O-line, and we are going to make some serious noise next year. I know the loss in Detroit does not sit well with Stafford. You know, I agree with you. I don't like to say absolutely 100% because it seems like everyone on these podcast type of stuff says 100%, absolutely. Agree with you 100%. But I do agree with you on that. They need to get a corner. They need to find some way to augment the pass rush. I don't know. I like some creative ideas with Ernest Jones. They need to augment the pass rush. And I'm for always. If you got the picks, you draft a lineman somewhere in the first 100, and you just keep that place stocked, right? You just keep it stocked. I want to see Demarcus Robinson come back. and a full year with Stafford, with that trio of receivers, maybe Cooper Kupp's going to be a little healthier. I think could be pretty special. I do think the Rams need to draft another receiver, and maybe 5th round or later, probably pick up another tight end. USA Expat says, when the Niners lose the Super Bowl, we'll add a nice page to their history. Amen and preach. Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree with you, USA Expat. I am very excited about the 49ers losing, and I honestly don't get Steeler fan Rob in Missouri why he's rooting for the Niners, right? It's not like the Chiefs hired Arthur Smith as their OC. Hey, good luck with that, Steeler fan Rob. Okay, one last thing, guys. Thank you so much for clicking on. If you could hit share, talk, all those things, subscribe, that really helps us. And if you get a chance to check us out on Spotify, we would really, really appreciate it. Okay, each show I've been kind of just talking a little bit about the Rams' schedule next year. There's no order given yet, no dates yet, but we know who we're playing, who the Rams are playing. And of course, there's 17 games. 6 of those are within the division: 49ers, Cardinals, Seahawks. The other 11 are the Bears, the Lions, the Packers, the Vikings, Bills, Dolphins, Patriots, Jets, Eagles, Raiders, and Saints. Eagles, Raiders, Dolphins, Bills, Vikings, Packers are all at home. So the Rams have some advantage there. So that's 17 games, counting that they have to play the 49ers twice and the Seahawks twice. That's 10 games with teams with winning records, right? And then 7 games against teams that went to the playoffs this year. So that's twice against Frisco. Lions, Packers, Bills, Dolphins, Eagles all went to the playoffs, and that's the Rams' record next year. And yet, when I look at this, schedule next year, and yet when I look at this schedule, I see double-digit wins. I mean, you tell me. I could see 12 wins without really anything special. I could see 12 wins here, unless Stafford gets hurt or some major collapse. This is a very promising schedule. Anytime you got the Patriots and Jets on your schedule, you should be feeling good. It's just a question of when we play them. And so I wanted to throw that out. Last time I'm going to bring up the Jones thing, but I do want to bring up Jones one more time. Jones is going into his last year, Ernest Jones, of his contract. All Ram fans should hold hands and hope that the team would extend him. Find a way to extend him now before he hits the market. And that's even if you don't do something creative with him and put him on the edge. I still think, I'm not saying go to the edge permanently. I'm just saying move him around. But if they do that, they still need something more than Christian Roseboom, Troy Reeder, and Jake Hummel, right? It's been like, where can we go cheap? And this is where the Rams have gone cheap, right? Let alone backup quarterback. Christian Roseboom, Troy Reeder, and Jake Hummel are all undrafted free agents. Rams won a Super Bowl with Troy Reeder getting starting time. Christian Roseboom acquitted himself pretty good this year. He played well, but we know his limitations. And Jake Hummel, a nice guy, but let's face it, he's still just a special teams player and everything. The Rams haven't invested a high premium pick in an off-ball linebacker since Ernest Jones at number 104 back in 2021. And off-ball linebacker is not a premium position these days. So what I did is I looked at the PFF big board just to see when the first linebacker comes in. The first linebacker that comes in is Texas A&M linebacker Edgerrin Cooper. He comes in at number 62 overall in the big draft board for PFF. Again, showing that premium position is not off-ball linebacker these days. But that's someone or someplace the Rams need to think about drafting this year. Maybe not, definitely not a top 100 pick, but there does need to be an investment. Maybe last pick in the 3rd round, the Raheem Morris comp pick, or maybe someplace in the 4th or the 5th. The Rams need to get somebody in there that's not an undrafted free agent. Maybe they develop another Ernest Jones, and he's just an Ernest Jones type. Maybe they develop an Ernest Jones type that allows the real Ernest Jones to be a little more creative defensively, right? Love it. Okay, looking at the Super Bowl, I'm not really going to do a whole breakdown type thing until next week. I'm just having fun calling it the Joe Montana Bowl, the Steve Bono Bowl, the Alex Smith Bowl, the Elvis Gerbach Bowl. If you can think of some other connections between those teams, I'd be happy to talk about it. I am as confident, however, of a Chief victory over the 49ers as I was of the 49ers beating the Dolphins in Super Bowl 19. I always tell people I don't bet, right? I'm not a good bettor. I don't read lines or anything like that. And the last time I bet on a football game, I was working at a supermarket. I was about 19 years old, and I was working a overnight shift. I was ripping cardboard, and people were talking trash about the 49ers and how Dan Marino was going to carve them up. And if you remember, in 1984, that was the Dan Marino season where he threw 48 touchdown passes in his second year, and he had Duper and Clayton and all those guys. And I said, there's no way. Not with that Frisco defense. There's no way he's going to do that. And someone kind of gave me that little, like, what do you know? And I don't know how you feel, but when someone dismisses you, yeah. So, of course, I yelled. I may have said something not so polite. And I said, put your money where your mouth is. And I said, straight up win, right? And this one guy bet me $20. And then another guy chimed in, hey, I want a piece of that. Put me down for 10. I made $30 that day, right? And they came to me afterwards and said, why were you so certain? And I said, because we watch the games, right? Don't you watch the games, or do you just watch the highlights, right? And that's why I like the Chiefs over the 49ers. I'm very convinced. I'm as convinced as the Chiefs are going to beat the 49ers as I was the 49ers were going to beat the Dolphins in Super Bowl 19, as convinced as I was that Bill Clinton was going to beat Bob Dole in 96. It's just something you just see. It doesn't take clairvoyance. It's just that you see. And the difference for me among many things right now between the Chiefs and the 49ers is I like the Chiefs cornerbacks. I like Trent McDuffie, and I like L'Jarius Sneed. McDuffie from Washington, 21st overall in the 2022 draft. He's great. He's been great. And then L'Jarius Sneed, a 4th-round pick in 2020. He's physical. He can cover. And he's a free agent this offseason. But those are two really good corners. Those are two good corners to have in present-day NFL. Now, I'm not comparing them to Mike Haynes and Lester Hayes. The latter should be in the Hall of Fame. But they might be Frank Minifield and Hanford Dixon from the Browns back in the day. And that's way above average of the current NFL corners in terms of what they can do. They can be physical and they can cover. And I do like this Chiefs team. So if the KC corners are better than the Frisco receivers, and I think they are, I think the Chiefs are going to be able to do a lot of damage. Purdy's going to have to hang on to that ball just a little bit longer. McCaffrey's going to take a few more hits. And so I do like the Chiefs in this one. But I will say this for the Frisco receivers, and no one talks about it. Yeah, everyone loves Debo. Ayuk made the catch. But the one guy that continues to make key plays for them is Jawan Jennings. Jawan Jennings, 6'3", 212. Realize he was a 7th-round pick in 2020 and out of Tennessee. And that guy just keeps making plays. He's fantastic. And I'm not saying I'd pay him any money to have him come to be with the Rams, but it seems like more often than not, Jawan Jennings is not only bailing out Brock Purdy, but he's bailing out the whole 49er organization. Okay, so we're going to get going here.
It was a stone group, my man.
We're going to get going with On This Date, February 2nd. And this is a great one in Ram history. On this date, February 2nd, 1972, during the NFL draft, the Rams drafted a 6'3", 255 defensive lineman out of Virginia State. He went on to play in 5 Pro Bowls, 2 first-team All-Pros, 2 second-team All-Pros. As the NFL films and stat people went back and looked at the film, they attribute 74.5 sacks to him during his playing career. Do you know who this guy was? Larry Brooks. Larry Brooks was drafted on this day, 14th round, 355th overall in 1972. 355, 14th round out of Virginia State. And he goes on to have a great career with the Rams, plays 11 seasons in LA, goes from a starter at defensive tackle to a coach for the Rams for the next 8 seasons from 83 through 1990. Played in 131 games, 122 starts, and he had picked up 74.5 sacks while the Rams were running Fred Dreyer and Jack Youngblood out there his entire career. And then, he had to line up alongside Merlin Olsen for a while as well. He's another one. Larry Brooks is another one I put in the class of if the Rams had picked off another Super Bowl appearance, if they had picked off a Super Bowl win, Brooks would have received serious and better consideration for the Hall of Fame. I think on some veteran committees, he still needs a look, but he's lost to the ages, and he was fantastic. Huge Larry Brooks fan here, and he was a great player, right? You couldn't have kept him if there was a salary cap nowadays, right? Because you'd had to have paid Youngblood. You would have been paying Olson, and there's no way you could have kept Larry Brooks because he was that good. Wanted to get that thing out there. Unbelievable. 14th round pick. I want to know who was doing the scouting for the Rams. That was pre-Klosterman, and I want to know who was doing the scouting for the Rams that season of 72 leading to the draft, right? Amen. All right. On this day in 2000, Dick Vermeil retired, stepped down as Rams HC just a couple hours literally after winning the Super Bowl in Super Bowl 34 over the Titans. And everyone wonders why he did it. And I have my own theory, because there's that moment on the platform while he's hugging and crying with Kurt Warner. There's that moment when they do the presentation, and he gave the trophy, the Lombardi trophy, he gave it to the devil herself, right? And then we heard her say, it just proves we made the right move coming to St. Louis. And for those of us that were still Ram fans, right, it was just this dagger in the heart. Now, I don't want to take anything away because we do have some St. Louis folks that watch us, and I want you to share the history with us if you want to. I share the history of Steven Jackson, Kurt Warner, greatest show on turf, London Fletcher, even though they never played it down in LA. But and I'm not going to say, St. Louis, you don't deserve to, if you're a Ram fan in St. Louis, you don't deserve to enjoy Matthew Stafford or be a fan. But when she said that, it was the nastiest, disgusting thing I'd ever heard that she put it that way. And I think Dick Vermeil thought, man, I just gave the trophy to the devil herself, and he had to back away. That's my personal belief, because what was it? A year later, he was back and playing, coaching Kansas City. Even gave us a draft pick, a number 1 draft pick for Trent Green. So wanted to get that one out there. Born on this day in 1984 was Cortland Finnegan. Remember Cortland Finnegan? He was a 7th round pick out of Samford by the Titans in 2006. And came over as a free agent with, I'm going to say it, hold your ears, foul language is about to come out. He came over in 2012 when Jeff Fisher became head coach of the Rams, and he had a solid first season. He was a feisty, physical corner, and if anybody could get a replica of him, please send him the Rams' way. He would be great to have in his prime. But after a great 2012, he was injured much of 2013, and he was pretty much done after that. He turns 40 years old today. But the birthday we really want to mention on February 2nd is Mike Fanning. The late Mike Fanning was born on this day in 1953. He passed away in October of 2022 at the age of 69. But Mike Fanning was a first-round pick in 1975. Part of that great Ram draft in 75. And he's a fantastic draft pick, but solid player. He just wasn't great, right? He was kind of spotting those first 2 years for Olson and Brooks in the interior of the Rams defensive line. He also had Cody Jones to contend with, and he played well. There was nothing bad about Mike Fanning. He just wasn't great. And when you think of Mike Fanning, who played at Notre Dame, when I looking for a comparison to him, and I did this a few years ago, is Mike Fanning was a pre-version of Michael Brockers. Michael Brockers was a first-round defensive tackle drafted by the Rams in 2012, and he played as Fanning did, who played along Hall of Fame talent and Merlin Olsen and Jack Youngblood and Fred Dreyer, let alone Dreyer and Brooks, right? Michael Brockers played alongside, a pretty good player in Chris Long, but he played alongside a Hall of Fame player in Aaron Donald. And both Brockers and Fanning, Brockers had a solid career, but not a great career. And here's the interesting thing when you wrap up Mike Fanning and Michael Brockers, both first-round picks for the Rams, both interior defensive linemen, both played alongside Hall of Famers, and when their careers were done, they were both traded to the Detroit Lions. Mike Fanning was sent to the Detroit Lions in 1983. And of course, Michael Brockers, after the 2020 season, was sent to the Detroit Lions for a 7th round pick. So wanted to throw that out there. I thought that was interesting stuff to get that out there. And since we're not on the air tomorrow, wanted to remind you that February 3rd is the anniversary of the 2002 Super Bowl 34 loss to the Patriots, 20-17 in New Orleans. And a lot of ways to go on that game. I don't even know if I'm as mad at Spygate as much as I am on some of the non-calls in that game. That's what makes me laugh about Nick Bosa talking about, ask for a description of the Chiefs, and he says they hold a lot. Yeah, that's the kettle calling the pot black. Anyway, I'm Joe Terosian, so thanks for coming with us, guys. I don't know if I have any other questions out there. All right, I do. Okay. Steeler fan Rob, I have to go with Chiefs. They took out the Ratbirds for me. Okay, there you go. Let's speak nice. Why are you talking about the Niners sitting pretty? I don't know. It seems kind of weak sauce there, Steeler fan Rob. USA Expat, when the Chiefs beat the 49ers, how sweet would it be for Joe Montana to be celebrating there? You know, that would be a Joe T-like thing. Man, that's funny. That's funny, USA Expat. I would half expect me to do something like that and say, oh, yeah, I've always been, right? And Joe Montana coming out with his number 19 Chiefs jersey. You know, I've got a Joe Montana jersey from the Chiefs. I do. It was given to me by some students of mine. I think I'm going to pull that out next week and try to build up some good mojo for KC, right? And if it helps, I hope Taylor Swift gets back in time to support Travis Kelce, to be his Glenn Close, so he can make the big catch to win the game. In this case, as I've said, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And I can tolerate Kelce Swift, but I cannot tolerate, and I will not tolerate, a Frisco title. Amen? Amen. Any other questions, guys? I'm happy to keep wrapping along. I did this reasonably quick today, 36 minutes. It's kind of a sweet spot. I've been noticing I've been going long in other areas, so happy to keep it tight today. All right. Are we good? I think we're good. If you have any questions, I'm happy to ask them. Check out JoeTerosian.com. I post articles there every once in a while, columns I write about the Rams. And, of course, be sure to follow us all across social media. Hit the subscribe button if you're with us for the first time. And yeah, St. Louis fans, you are welcome here. Okay, guys, I got to go. God bless. Take care. And we'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.